Hello, welcome to our second virtual session for the English class. Today we will be discussing about predictions and expressing certainty and uncertainty. Have you ever thought about how your life will be in 5 or 10 years? Well, today's lesson is about making predictions in English. Although there are multiple ways in which you can form your predictions, today we will be focusing on making predictions using modal verbs and adverbs. But before we start, I would like to take some time to explain you some key terms in this lesson. The first key term that we want to explain is term certain. When we talk about being certain, what we're saying is that we know something for sure. When we use the word uncertain, we're saying that we are not so sure. Now, the third term is a word that I know you know from your previous English courses. However, I'm going to remind you. The other word is an adverb. An adverb is a word or phrase that modifies an adjective, verb, or other adverbs, even a word group. So basically, it's a word that modifies other words. So in this session, when we talk about adverbs, we will be discussing adverbs of probability. Now, let's talk about making predictions about the future. When we talk about adverbs of probability, we're talking about words that modify the degree of certainty about the things that they modify. Now, there are many adverbs in the English language, but for this session, we'll be focusing on 5 adverbs. The first one is the adverb certain. The second adverb is the adverb definitely. The third adverb is probably, then possibly, and finally, hopefully. Now, if you look at these words right here, this is a scale that will help you identify the degree of certainty that these adverbs have. Whenever we use the adverbs certainly and definitely, we're moving between the range of certain and sure. That is, between that where we are very sure or sure. Whenever we use the adverb probably, we're saying that we are sure. Whenever we use the adverb possibly, we're saying that we are almost sure that that thing is going to happen. And if we use the adverb hopefully, we are saying that we are not so sure about it. Now, let's talk about these adverbs and how we use them. How do we use these adverbs? Well, we use them before the main verb. Let's work on an example. I could say, he will certainly finish the project tomorrow. Notice that we have the subject right here. We have the modal verb here. In this space, we will have our adverb. Then we will have the main verb of the sentence. And finally, the complement or the rest of the sentence. Now, notice how, regardless of the adverb that you will be using, you will always use it before the main verb. He will certainly finish the project tomorrow. Or, he will definitely finish the project tomorrow. He will probably finish the project. He will possibly finish the project. Or he will hopefully finish the project. This is how we use the adverbs. Now, let's move on to the second part of today's session, which is modal verbs. Some of the modal verbs that we can use whenever we're talking about certainty and uncertainty are the following. You could use or choose more modal verbs, but we will be focusing on these ones. We could use will or its negative form, which is will not, or its contracted form, which is won't. And we could also use these modal verbs. I could use might or might not. I could use may or its negative may not. And I could also use the modal verb could. Now, whenever we choose to use these modal verbs by themselves, we will be expressing the following. If we use the modal verb will or its negative form, will not or won't, we are expressing that we are sure about something. And whenever we choose to use might, might not, may not, or could, we are saying that we are not so sure. So, for example, I could say that Luisa will love this movie. What I'm saying is that I'm sure Luisa will love this movie. But I could also say that Luisa won't love this movie. And in this case, what I would be saying is that I am sure that Luisa won't like this movie. Let's move on to these modal verbs. I could say the following. If I choose to use the modal verb might, I'm saying, in this example, I'm saying that I am not sure if I am going to watch the movie. Now, we could use the modal verbs by themselves to express a certain degree of certainty or uncertainty. But we could also use or choose to use these modal verbs with an adverb. And then we would have different things. I could say, for example, that I will definitely now notice how here I have these modal verbs right here. And remember how I told you that by themselves they express that we're sure about something. Now, when we add an adverb, we're modifying the degree of certainty or uncertainty. In this first case right here, if we use the adverb definitely, what we're saying is that we're certain or very sure. If we use the adverb definitely and won't, we're expressing the same, that we are certain or very sure that something won't happen. Now, if we use the adverb probably and the modal verb will, we are saying that we are almost sure. And the same happens with the negative form of the verb will. So, let's talk about predictions in a nutshell. We could use adverbs and modal verbs to express certainty or uncertainty. We focused on 5 adverbs. We talked about these 5 different adverbs and we say that each one of them express a different degree of certainty. We also said that these modal verbs, will and its negative form, won't, might and might not, may not, and could, are also used to express a certain degree of certainty. And the main thing is that we could choose to add these adverbs to these modal verbs, and the degree of certainty will also be modified. So I hope this video was helpful for you. And remember that if you have questions regarding this topic, you can join me tomorrow in our discussion sessions at 1:55 via WebEx meetings.